Welcome, everybody, to 13 minutes of gig news in 13 minutes or less. I do want to announce first that next week will be the last Saturday of the month. 13 minutes will drop on that Saturday. After that Saturday, 13 minutes of news will not end. Absolutely not. It's got steam behind it. People like it. It's a good informative thing in a brief period of time, but it will be moving to Sundays. It will drop at the same time, and actually, it won't be like it's been the past few weeks because things have just been crazy, and Saturdays are just rough for me. It will drop at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific on Sundays starting in May. So it will. That way, I'm not kind of finishing Thursday Night Roundtable, Driver Nation, and just talking about those again. I'll be talking about everything I talked about that week, audio podcast and all any live streams, last mile stuff. And then I'll kind of allude or be talking about things that I'll be talking into the next week. So um, in May, Sundays for 13 minutes of news, and it will be 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific, and it will premiere. It's the only thing that I do a premiere with anymore. I used to do a few, but this one I've tried dropping and I've tried it as a premiere. I will keep doing it as a premiere, and I will always be in the premiere. If there's an occasion where for some reason I can't, well, so be it. But for the most part, I will always be in the live chat. And please come in, watch it on the premiere, and put your questions in the live chat as we go. I'll try and answer them there in the live chat. And if not, I will love it because I will take into it. I'll take your questions down and I'll get them covered in the upcoming week and other things. So um yeah, there's gonna be some changes. I'm gonna be on the YouTube side. I'm gonna be cutting up a lot of the videos that I've done where, they're pretty long, but there's lots of great information, but there's some that I just want to dig out. So I'm gonna be making some shorts here again, like I was doing in December. I don't know if it'll be one a day or what, but watch for all that to happen. So clearly this week, I'm gonna see how much time I have at the end to kind of recap the week because we've talked about it a few times. Um, but let's talk about this coming week. So this coming week, I am hosting a panel with David Pickerel. We have Kim's Side Money Plans. We have Joe from Let's Play Doordash. And we have my friend Jason Pease. And if you don't know Jason, Drive to Win 13 on YouTube. Jason's been around the gig economy for a long time. He has been around almost as long as me. He lived up in Idaho and he was doing rideshare. The pandemic hit, he was still up there. And then he also does gig work in Arizona and he also does it in Florida. And Jason did a thing during the pandemic where he drove around and we're signing people up and getting them started on these apps. So he wasn't just signing up and moving away, but he took his RV and he put his Prius in tow and he just went to each city to city and did this. But he's got a lot of experience with DoorDash. And the panel that I'm talking about that we're going to talk about DoorDash, clearly, when I mentioned David Pickerel from Para, you guys can already assume this is not. We will keep it civil, unlike DoorDash and how they treat people, because all of the people I just mentioned, we all have moral and ethical compasses, unlike DoorDash. So, but we will be talking heavy and deep diving into the DoorDash stuff because there's a few things going on. The latest TOS change is we all click agree. We talk about this all the time. And Kim made a video about how they launched it at lunch, this last one. That's kind of normal for them because they know that you'll turn it on and you want to dash right then. And without clicking, I agree, you can't dash. So people just click it. But this last one actually had some wording changes. And we're going to have some very clear examples. They got away from a lot of terms that for years we've been saying, hey man, take those away because you can't be an independent contractor and have that, and then this and that and that and that. But they weren't listening to anybody. But on their own job, they seem to. I'm not saying that they're afraid of what might be coming down the pipe, but they sure seem to be cleaning up their act or their language a little bit. And it's not even that it's cleaning it up, guys. Like here, let me give you an example. Here's one right here. So, okay. So one of the changes is that in the language is that they don't have a section, or they don't refer to it as the deactivation policy. It is now called the Service Provider Platform Access Policy. So, how much different is that? Enough, because the word deactivation is very strong, and a lot of states are very much not happy, and neither are drivers, with the fact that you can be wrongfully deactivated and not have a recourse. Um, which moves me into this next part. So, one of the other things we will be discussing is my state, Colorado, and Senate Bill 23-098, which was co-written by Stephanie Vigil, the newly elected House member here in Colorado. She is a freshman in the House, and she wrote it with somebody else. And they already got a senator here in Colorado to sponsor the bill. So the reason that I know some of you probably have heard about this. You might have even seen it on this channel. We've talked about it a few times, and you might have caught one of the interviews with her. But the reason you're not seeing it nationally, and why you're seeing Connecticut and Minnesota and North Carolina and Massachusetts and Washington State and all these other states that are making changes right now, Nevada, Phil, just Pennsylvania, New Jersey, all these states that are literally starting to move their changes. The reason those make national news, just so you're aware, is because those all have a dollar amount. They vary, but I like picking on Connecticut right now. I think that's going to be the ultimate fail. So let's watch that one. I don't even know how it's going to get out of the gate. However, they have all the votes on both sides for the House and the Senate. It looks like it will pass. I don't know what it'll make the gig companies do. None of us do, but $36 an hour guaranteed for active time, and $1.30 per mile for rideshare, for grocery, and for the delivery space apps is not a feasible model. I've talked about it enough times, so I won't get into the details of that. You guys can go back and watch other 13 minutes or other times we've discussed it many times. But here in Colorado, you're not hearing about this Senate Bill 23-098 as much. And here's why. Because it doesn't have the media effect. Like, maybe the drivers around the country might want to see this article, but not all drivers are looking at articles. And so when a news publication puts out an article about the gig economy, it usually, if it's going to relate to drivers, it needs to be about the pay or about flexibility. So the bill here in Colorado, just to sum it up very quickly, and we will deep dive it this week, because it's about to hit the House and the Senate for a vote, is that here in Colorado, we're not talking about anything else. I have a few woes behind it of what might come after the fact, but this bill on its own, standalone, I am 100% in support of, because since the days of pre-para and when para started, and when I met David at the very beginning of the pandemic, David and I met, and we both were all about transparency. We thought, wow, how much worse can this get? And that was in early April of 2020. So it was literally 3 years ago. How much worse can it get? David and I have we've all seen this over the last 3 years get immensely worse. So how much worse can it get? I don't even want to say those words anymore, because I'm scared to say it, because I don't know. But all we're asking for in this bill, or all that they've put into this bill specifically, as long as it has no other bills behind it or no affiliations that could hurt drivers, all we're asking for in this bill is 100% transparency. And that's what David and I have wanted since day one. We've said, if you show all the transparency, if you show on every app, so each app's different what you'd need to see, but we all know what I'm talking about. Like if you show pickup for rideshare, pickup, drop off, miles, the full pay, if there's a tip, like, show me everything I need to know, and then don't hold the acceptance rate against me. In fact, I'm all for just removing it altogether, but show me everything I need to know. And at that point, I no longer have any reason to be mad at your company. Anybody in this country can run a company however they want. If they want to run it into the ground, let them. If they want it to become such a trash operation where Rideshare is sitting on top of people's dirty laundry and they accept all car models that just can run, okay, that's a different story. But if you're wanting more elite drivers or veteran drivers or nicer vehicles, you're not going to get it. So here in Colorado, this bill, SB 23098, talks about um, that we need to see full transparency and that the customers need to see the full transparency of where the pay goes because they're very confused as well. The other part of that bill, though, is something else that I very much care about. That if you are wrongfully terminated, now again, this is absolutely going to get hairy, but it's necessary. Um, if you are wrongfully deactivated, there needs to be a mechanism in place to allow you to contest that. And that's the other part of the bill. Full transparency. And if you're deactivated, you have to have a way to be able to say, wait a minute, I want to challenge this. And so that we will dive into that. Um, the other thing that I just wanted to summarize, I said I didn't know how much time we've had, and we don't have much. So here it goes. The House committee hearing in Washington, D.C. this week to stop the rule change or to uh, ask for exact details on the rule change from the Department of Labor. Kim Cavan and Karen Anderson, friends of the Rideshare Rodeo podcast, have been on many times. They've been on the YouTube a few times, but they've been on the audio podcast many times. Friends of mine, friends of the podcast, very smart people, and friends of the 65 now, the now 65 million independent contractors in this country, which make up about 37% of the workforce. We're talking that was 59 million 2 years ago. And this count this year was 64.8 million people working in traditional gig jobs and in app-based gig work. Now, the app-based gig work is only a small portion of that, but it's a big deal. And here's the biggest takeaway. You guys can go watch the hearing. It's in my community post. You can go watch the last few lives that we did because I talk about it. But the biggest threat to everything here, you guys, if you're kind of trying to wrap your head around all this, let me make it real simple. The biggest threat here is Julie Sue. Julie Sue, if she becomes nominated, could absolutely make a worst case scenario of all the different ways we've looked at this. And she is the one that could do that. Luckily, some people from both sides of the aisle are objecting to her. Hopefully that will remain. And that's 13 minutes of news in just under 13 minutes. Peace.